Gunfights are happening in places that might surprise you. The Atlanta police chief says officers are frequently being called to luxury apartments and condominiums for disturbances. Fox has more.
We ruin everything. Okay? Everything. If you've been following this channel, you know that the apartment building I used to live in, it wasn't luxury, but it was a nice apartment building. Working class people. Well, the apartment right behind us woke and got a bunch of low-income low-income housing. They went the low-income housing route, man. Below market value. So, they made a bunch of units market value. Which means, single mothers and some people. Now that neighborhood, the entire neighborhood is ruined. Just one building. We ruin everything.
Gunfights are happening in places that might surprise you. The Atlanta police chief says officers are frequently being called to luxury apartments and condominiums for disturbances. Fox News More States looks into the trend of crime in affluent communities.
There was a time in Atlanta that if you could afford it, you could pretty much move away from certain kinds of crime.
Let me fix that for you. Certain types of people. Sun people.
There was a time in Atlanta that if you could afford it, you could pretty much move away from certain kinds of crime. Violence on the doorstep. Well, that's not the case anymore in a number of these high-rise apartments and condos. The correlation between an Atlanta zip code and safety is not as strong as it used to be. Police are being called to pricey residences to try to quell gunplay.
Activities are starting to change from what we are seeing in the streets to these more secure apartment complexes, location that may have a concierge desk or something of that nature. And we're working on a strategy to see how we can infiltrate that and intervene in those areas.
You have no idea who's living next to you.
This security consultant is on the ground floor of this trend. He hires off-duty cops to patrol and design security plans.
There's been incidents where there's been fights and guns drawn at some of our client sites. Inside.
With his off-duty officers having to de-escalate the situation.
Imagine if you paying $2,400 for a one-bedroom. $3,200 for a two-bedroom. This is just unacceptable, man, that these people have to deal with this, man. I've been talking a lot about how sun crime is leached into the suburbs. And in these inner cities, it's starting to leach into high-rise crime. You live in this structure. You got a concierge at your desk. In the building. Concierge, police officers, teaming about. And you got Sunmen running around here acting like it's the ghetto. And you know how they get in these apartments, right? Who knows how career criminal, psychopathic Sunmen, most times unemployed, on some kind of probation or parole, get into apartments like this. Ding, 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 ding. You guessed it. Sistahs. That's why I tell you, man. Because some man can't, I'm telling you, man. When I lived in the apartment, my wife got it. My wife got the apartment. I didn't qualify for that. My wife got the apartment. And I was staying there for a long time. I wasn't on the lease. And then they said that I couldn't, I had to get on the lease because I couldn't stay there. My wife, listen, and this wasn't even a luxury one like this. It was nice. It had nice amenities, a weight room, computer room, day room, a rooftop with a bunch of grills on it. Very nice place. You had to use the key fob to get in, parking deck below. Very nice, but they have so many nicer ones in D.C. That's why I'm just saying it. But it was very nice. I couldn't get in there. Take a son woman to get these fools in here. That's why I tell you, man, if you see a sister moving into your neighborhood, be on high alert. Because she's bringing a degenerate or even a great guy who's just probably going to kill her or do something crazy. It just is what it is, man. I'm no different either, man. There's been plenty of nights. I want to do something crazy. So, I mean, listen, man. These fools getting here with these sisters, man. Trust me. Sisters get these apartments. Nurses, RNs, dental hygienists, paralegals, administrative assistants, things of that nature. They get these jobs. And I'm not even talking about the degrees, the ones with the degrees and all that. I'm talking about these ones that can get these apartments. And then they drag in some riffraff with them. And it ruins the entire neighborhood. Some place like that, it would only take about 10 sisters to ruin this neighborhood. This building right here. 10. Ruined.
With his off-duty officers having to de-escalate the situation. But it sounds like it's happening on the doorstep and down the hall.
Exactly. That's the assumption, is that if you can afford a luxury condo in Buckhead, then you're safe because you got a concierge, which is not really security, that's manning the front desk. But then you have tenants that are not supposed to be in that kind of building, but they can afford it however they make their money, and they're allowed to have guns inside these buildings because it's your home.
Once a high-income individual who may have questionable character is inside the gates, is it too late?
There's steps that, property managers and owners of the buildings can do, but, it might hit their bottom line.
They're going to have a bunch of sisters out there with picket signs and bullhorns talking about racism and they being targeted for racism. That's why they don't do it. We have 1,000 sisters doxing everybody. They're going to dox the concierge just like he did it. They're going to dox the manager. They're going to dox the staff, the secretary. They're going to dox everybody and get them fired. And anybody they doing business with going to have to cut ties with them. And they're going to be branded racist for life. For trying to fix this situation. And people are going to get tired of this sooner or later, man. People are going to get tired of this.
There's steps that, property managers and owners of the buildings can do, but, it might hit their bottom line. It might cost them, but if they don't do anything, it's going to impact the innocent people that are staying there.
And a security consultant noted that the summertime climate is already here. That'll mean in those high-rises, deck parties, drinking, and the likelihood that there'll be some guns in bags by the pool. From Buckhead, I'm Morse Diggs, Fox 5 News.
News 4 Jack's I-Team digging into complaints about a local apartment complex where some tenants say they're offended by the language used in an email from their property manager. The message is a warning to stop loitering in the parking lot. The manager writes, quote, We are not the hood, and it will not be treated as such.
Now, what's wrong with that comment? You got a bunch of Sun people hanging out all hours of the night in the parking lot, leaning on cars, milling around. You come back to your luxury apartment, or you pay $2,400 for a one bedroom. You come back to your parking lot or your building. There's a bunch of Sun men sitting there staring at you like they ain't never seen a person before. Staring all up in your car. And a bunch of hoochie mamas out there twerking. And loud cigarette butts and loogies everywhere. Cups, McDonald's wrappers. Cigarello wrappers. Blunt guts. Just everywhere. It's loud. They seedy. They just look seedy. They not trying to not look seedy. That's part of their image, to look like tough and gangster and look dangerous. That's part of the image that they, that's part of their image. So the property manager sent out a memo saying, look, man, we're not the hood. And it will not be treated as such. And you know what happened next. You know what card got played.
The manager writes, quote, "We are not the hood, and it will not be treated as such." News4JAX I-Team investigator Tarek Miner looked into this email and went to the property manager for comment.
In this email sent to hundreds of residents at the Lofts at Brooklyn, property manager Nicole Youngblood writes, "It has been brought to our attention that there is a lot of loitering happening in the parking lot in the evenings. I want you to know that if you are aware of your guests hanging out in our parking lot, you, the lease owner, will be in violation. This is the only warning you will receive. We are not the hood, and it will not be treated as such." Youngblood's reference to the hood is something residents are taking offense to. We spoke to a renter who doesn't want to be identified in fear of retaliation.
The climate that we're in right now, it really just kind of felt very hurtful in a way to what they may consider what the hood is like. So just a bunch of people hanging out, everyone just talking, or however they consider the hood, I'm not sure. But I felt like they were referring to it in a derogatory term.
This is why everyone is going to start realizing what I told you. Sisters ruin communities. This woman's talking about as if this woman's interpretation of the hood is some foreign concept, like she just conjured it up. And instead of keeping her mouth shut and letting the people who run the building get rid of the riffraff and make it safe again and livable and comfortable for the people who pay to make that place a home, some big applehead sister, some old itchy scalp sister, gonna open her big old trout mouth and complain and try to make it a racial issue to the news. When you see a sister move in your neighborhood, be aware. Your neighborhood is slowly. Your neighborhood's done. It just depends on how many move there. One, you okay. More than one, your neighborhood's ruined.
We spoke to a renter who doesn't want to be identified in fear of retaliation.
The climate that we're in right now, it really just kind of felt very hurtful in a way to what they may consider what the hood is like. So just a bunch of people hanging out, everyone just talking, or however they consider the hood. I'm not sure, but I felt like they were referring to it in a derogatory term.
The News4JAX I-Team went to the Lofts of Brooklyn, located between downtown and Riverside today, to speak with the property manager. Nicole Youngblood met us at the door, but was unable to speak about the email. Residents say management could have worded their loitering warning differently, leaving out the phrase, "We are not the hood."
That report from Tarek Minor. This afternoon, we received this response from the apartment management in a statement. We were made aware of the email that was sent to the residents of the Lofts at Brooklyn and are addressing the content with the property manager. We strive for all residents living at our communities to have a superior experience and recognize that how we communicate with our residents affects a large portion of their experience.
I promise you, these uber sensitive, vulnerable Sun people here are not going to stop till they get that woman, Nicole Youngblood, fired. They want her job. They not only want her to lose her job. That's not it. They not only want her to lose her job, but they want her to lose everything. Okay? Instead of just shutting up because the building's taking action, because obviously, if you read the memo, the first memo, listen to what she says. It has been brought to our attention that there is a lot of loitering happening in the parking lot. Hence the phrase brought to our attention. So a lot of these Sun people who, because these apartments, it ain't a lot of hood people living in these apartments. It's probably a few market rate apartments and a couple of below low income apartments. And the 90% of them are probably hard-working Sun people that bust their humps every day just to be able to not live in the hood. And they complained about this stuff to the property manager. And instead of just shutting up, when the property manager started to take care of the situation, they couldn't resist. This is what I talk about gratification deferment. They couldn't just control that impulse. Okay, we want to feel like a victim. Oh my God, we get a chance to be a victim. We get a chance to be racist. But we did ask them to clean up the neighborhood, and and this is the first step of cleaning up the neighborhood. But we want to be a victim. We got a chance to be victims, and the news can come out here and make us all feel like we're being treated racially and we're victims of racism and supremacy. Such a complex decision. Which way to go? And they couldn't control themselves. And they bit the apple and took the "we want to be victims" narrative. This is why it's a bunch of gliders with degrees that think they can come fix this. You cannot fix this stuff. Listen, I lived in an apartment building like this. It takes a lot of calls and a lot of complaints for them to act on something. I mean, a lot. You basically gotta, email them every day, and a bunch of people gotta keep emailing every day and you gotta keep going in the office because there's so many units in these buildings. And these people, they really don't want to get entangled with the hood people in the building because they know they could get in a fight. Like in my building, the girl in the front desk said, asked the girl to one girl who lived on my floor to stop having parties and, being loud and keeping everybody up. And the girl came down there and cussed her out. And then she asked the girl, her friends would come and be, hanging out, in front of the building and just coming and following people who live. Because, you're supposed to be buzzed in. They wait for somebody who lived there to come in, and 5 or 10 of them would just follow in behind that person. They asked her about that. She cussed them out. Wanted to fight. So these people in these concierge desks, they don't want to deal with these Sun people. So you gotta really, really, really it takes a lot of calls, a lot of emails to get them to act on something. So I'm just saying that because I want to let you know, for them to send this out, it was a lot of Sun people upset about all the hanging out in the parking lot, in the hood element, just milling around. Because some people, these brothers ain't got nothing to do. A lot of these brothers these hood brothers, or these brothers that are just, shooting people, and hey, they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have nothing to do. If they had something to do, they wouldn't be hanging out in the parking lot of their friend's apartment building all night. I promise you, if you have something better to do, you're not going to be hanging out in the parking lot of your friend's luxury apartment condo that they got at market rate, because a lot of these cities are being forced to put a lot of low-income housing in these luxury units, a lot of low-income housing units in these luxury apartment buildings in the name of equity. So these guys have nowhere to go. They have nothing to do but hang around and just mill around. And the people complained. And the apartment building said, okay, fine, we'll do something about it. And that one word, that one sentence, we are not the hood, got those same people to flip just like that. Boom. Now they're going against the apartment building, trying to put them on blast to the media. Got the news station coming down there, not for the people that's making their lives miserable, because it's miserable coming home and seeing a bunch of 6'2", gold teeth having, hard staring, skinny jeans wearing, drawers showing, loud, obnoxious Sunmen hanging out in front of your apartment building. That's miserable. And it's not because of their skin complexion or their texture of their hair. It's solely because of their behavior. So these people, and his sisters too, man, that's the saddest part. Because it's the son man who lived with her, he can't go to the news. He's not on the lease. He just come through, he just stay there all day. He might ride a car around town while she at work, picking up other broads and, but dealing with his other broads while she at work in her car. And then he come pick her up at 5 o'clock, drop her off at home, and hit the streets again, and then come back in about 2 o'clock in the morning and hang out in the parking lot with his buddies. And if you get like 10 of them, 10 sisters like that come in there and bring that stuff, that will turn a luxury apartment complex into the hood. Period.